There are albums so dangerous, they were literally banned. In the rebellious decade of the 1970s, these records challenged governments, religions, and even their own record labels. And the irony? The harder they tried to silence them, the louder they became. Today, we're diving into the 10 most banned albums of the 70s and the dark truth behind them. From censored covers to lyrics that terrified politicians, each of these albums carries a story the world tried to bury, but music never forgets. So, before we begin, hit that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see music history. And remember, some songs were silenced not because they were wrong, but because they revealed too much. Number 10. Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, 1977. When the Sex Pistols released Never Mind the Bollocks in 1977, the rock world was never the same again. The title alone sparked outrage. The word bollocks, a British slang term for nonsense and worse, was considered obscene. Stores refused to sell it. Radio stations banned it. Even British politicians demanded the album be pulled entirely from shelves. But what looked like a disaster became a revolution. Every ban only made people more curious. Each restriction was fuel poured onto the fire of punk rebellion. And the dark truth behind it all, the Sex Pistols never just wanted to make music. They wanted to expose everything rotten beneath society's surface. The chaos, the anger, the noise, that was the message. God Save the Queen was banned from radio, yet it became an anthem for an entire generation that no longer believed in royalty or moral purity. It was more than rock. It was a scream. And the British establishment realized something terrifying. Beneath the feedback and fury was freedom itself. But while the UK tried to silence punk, somewhere else another artist was about to face something far more dangerous, an actual army. Number 9. Zombie by Fela Kuti, 1976. In 1970s Nigeria, making music could be an act of war. And no one understood that better than Fela Kuti, the man who turned sound into resistance. His album, Zombie, wasn't just an Afrobeat masterpiece. It was a direct attack on Nigeria's military government. Fela called the soldiers zombies, men who followed orders blindly, without thought, without soul. The response was brutal. The army stormed Fela's compound, destroyed his studio, and beat dozens of people. His mother was thrown from a window during the assault and later died from her injuries. The government tried to silence him with violence and instead created a legend. The dark truth behind Zombie is that it revealed the true power of music, to challenge, to provoke, and to terrify those in power. Fela didn't just sing about freedom, he lived it, no matter the cost. And while Nigeria burned under the weight of repression, the Western world was about to be scandalized by something completely different. An album cover that looked innocent but caused a moral firestorm. Number 8. Indelibly Stamped, Supertramp, 1971. Before they became the progressive rock giants everyone knows, Supertramp shocked the world with something far simpler, a cover. Their 1971 album, Indelibly Stamped, featured a nude woman covered in tattoos seated in full view. At the time, it was considered outrageous. Stores in Australia and parts of the UK refused to display it. Some even sold it inside brown paper bags, as if it were contraband. Ironically, the music itself was soft, even melancholic, nothing shocking about it, but the cover alone was enough to brand Supertramp as dangerous. The dark truth behind it all is that record labels started to notice something powerful. Censorship sold. Every headline, every scandal, every band sticker, all of it drove sales through the roof.
Indelibly Stamped became famous not for its songs, but for exposing a new era in the music business. The more scandal, the more success. And if this album was shocking only for its image, the next one would cross every possible line, banned across countries and still controversial to this day.
Number 7. Virgin Killer, Scorpions, 1976. Few albums in history have caused as much discomfort as Virgin Killer by Scorpions. Released in 1976, it wasn't just the provocative title that got it banned. It was the cover. The artwork featured a nude young girl covered by a cracked glass effect meant to symbolize the loss of innocence. According to the band and the label, it was a metaphor for time-destroying purity. But the public and censors saw something entirely different. The album was banned in multiple countries, pulled from stores, and even faced legal action for indecent content. The controversy was so intense that later pressings replaced the cover entirely. The dark truth behind Virgin Killer is that it exposed the 1970s' cultural obsession with shock as art. The line between creativity and exploitation blurred, and Scorpions got caught right in the middle. Still, the album became a cult classic. And in the end, the scandal didn't destroy Scorpions. It launched them into global fame. But what came next would prove that censorship could strike even at performers who made provocation their greatest weapon.
Number 6. Love It to Death by Alice Cooper in 1971. In the 1970s, rock was getting bolder, but no one pushed the limits like Alice Cooper. His 1971 album, Love It to Death, didn't just redefine theatrical rock, it put fear center stage. The original cover showed the band posing innocently, until someone noticed Cooper's hand placed suggestively near his crotch. The gesture, seen as sexual, was enough for many stores to pull the album from shelves. Warner Brothers later reissued it with a modified cover, but by then, the impact was irreversible. The dark truth behind this scandal is that Alice Cooper knew exactly what he was doing. While critics and church groups called him sec or satanic, he turned outrage into free publicity. Every cry of censorship meant more ticket sales. Love It to Death became the foundation of shock rock, a genre that fused performance, horror, and social rebellion. Cooper didn't just want to sing, he wanted the audience to feel uncomfortable and love it. But if moral censorship was powerful, what happens when repression comes from an entire government? The next album would reveal the true price of defiance.
Number 5. Egon Bondi's Happy Hearts Club Band, Plastic People of the Universe, 1978. While censorship in the West came from stores and moral outrage, on the other side of the world, it came from the state itself. In communist Czechoslovakia, a band called the Plastic People of the Universe dared to do the unthinkable: play free music. Their underground album, Egon Bondi's Happy Hearts Club Band, released secretly in 1978, was a direct act of rebellion. The title, a parody of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, was already a provocation. But the lyrics, based on the writings of philosopher Egon Bondy, were even more dangerous. They spoke about individuality, alienation, and freedom, concepts banned under a totalitarian regime. The band was arrested, their instruments confiscated, and their shows banned. The album survived only through hidden copies, traded among fans, passed hand to hand like a secret message. The dark truth behind this record is that its censorship sparked something far bigger: a wave of cultural resistance that helped inspire the Charter 77 movement, one of Eastern Europe's most significant acts of defiance. Once again, music had exposed what the powerful feared most: the loss of control over people's minds. And while Eastern Europe lived under constant surveillance, across the Atlantic,
American censorship was about to reveal its own bizarre, moralistic, and sometimes downright absurd side.
Number 4. Hard Labor. Three Dog Night, 1974. In 1974, Three Dog Night released what seemed like a harmless album, until people saw the cover. Hard Labor depicted a woman giving birth to a vinyl record, literally. It was meant as a metaphor, the creative struggle, the hard labor of making music. But censors didn't see art, they saw offense. Record companies and distributors demanded the image be changed immediately. The final version was altered. The record baby was covered by a white sheet to hide what was considered obscene. Some stores still refused to stock it, claiming the idea alone was inappropriate. The dark truth behind this case is that the 1970s were a paradox. Artists fought for creative freedom while society still flinched at anything resembling the human body. Moral censorship didn't just come from religion, it came from fear of discomfort. Ironically, the outrage turned hard labor into a quiet protest against American hypocrisy, a nation celebrating sexual liberation, yet terrified of birth imagery. But if this cover pushed boundaries, the next album would explode right through them, defying taste, rules, and the limits of what could even be sold in public.
Number 3. Below the Belt, Boxer, 1976. In 1976, the band Boxer released an album that seemed designed purely to provoke. Below the Belt, a title already loaded with innuendo, featured a cover that left almost nothing to the imagination. A close-up of a nude woman with the band's logo strategically placed. The result? Instant scandal. Record stores across the UK, Canada, and the US banned the album. Some distributors refused to even ship it. And, as always, censorship became the best form of marketing. The dark truth behind Below the Belt is that it wasn't just a banned album. It marked a turning point when rock began to use taboo deliberately as a sales tactic. Shock had become a business. Art was no longer just expression. It was calculated provocation. Many countries replaced the cover with a neutral version, but the reputation was already sealed. For some, Below the Belt symbolized the moment rebellion stopped being dangerous and started being profitable. And if the human body was enough to cause outrage, imagine what happened when one of the biggest bands on Earth challenged Britain's moral boundaries head-on.
Number 2. Goat's Head Soup, The Rolling Stones, 1973. By 1973, the Rolling Stones weren't just a band, they were a cultural phenomenon. But with Goat's Head Soup, they learned that even rock's biggest icons could be silenced. The album had a darker, more decadent tone, a reflection of the band's chaotic lifestyle at the time. But what truly infuriated censors was the track Star Star, originally titled Starfucker. The BBC and several US radio stations immediately banned it, calling it vulgar and obscene. Mick Jagger, ever the provocateur, mocked the band, claiming the song was just about fame. But everyone knew the truth. The Stones wanted to provoke, to test the boundaries of moral tolerance. The dark truth behind Goat's Head Soup is that censorship backfired spectacularly. The band only fueled curiosity, and the album debuted at number 1. Once again, the attempt to silence rock only made it louder. With that, the Rolling Stones proved that censorship was just another form of free advertising. But while they toyed with outrage, another legend faced a very different kind of backlash, one that even genius couldn't escape. His name was Jimi Hendrix.
Number 1. Electric Ladyland, The Jimi Hendrix Experience, 1970. Electric Ladyland wasn't just an album. It was a declaration of freedom, and for many, the sound of a revolution. Released in 1968, but censored and reissued throughout the 1970s, Jimi Hendrix's final studio album became the embodiment of everything society tried to control. The controversy began with the cover, a group of nude women staring directly at the camera, unapologetic and defiant. It was meant to symbolize liberation, the raw spirit of the counterculture. But record stores saw it differently: obscene, dangerous, unfit for display. Many refused to sell it. Others hid it under the counter. In the US, the album was released with a safer alternate cover, just Hendrix's portrait. The dark truth behind Electric Ladyland is that even after Jimmy died, censorship tried to tame him. The music industry attempted to polish his legacy, erase the chaos, and sell a sanitized version of a man who could never be contained. But Electric Ladyland endured, a blazing reminder that real art doesn't ask for permission, it demands to be heard. Every riff, every note, every distorted scream of that guitar was a challenge to conformity itself. And in the 1970s, that kind of freedom was too dangerous to display. Yet, despite every ban and edit, Electric Ladyland outlived the fear that tried to bury it. Because music never dies. It just finds new ways to be heard.
Throughout the 1970s, censorship tried to silence songs, hide covers, and erase voices. But ironically, every band became a megaphone. With each forbidden album, music only got louder. These 10 records prove that the real threat was never the lyrics. It was freedom itself. They showed that art doesn't die when silenced. It waits. It transforms. It finds new ways to speak. And maybe that's the darkest truth of all. The powerful were never afraid of sound. They were afraid of thought. So if you believe music still has the power to challenge and inspire, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Because every week, we uncover the tales the world tried to erase. And remember, some of the greatest songs in history were born from silence. The difference is, these artists turned silence into a scream. And that scream still echoes today.